Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rich Hill. I'm the mayor of Round Lake Beach. And welcome to our fireside chat at the Cultural Center in Round Lake Beach. Tonight I'm joined by our guest, Ann Maine.
Thank you.
Ann's on the Lake County Board. Board member Maine represents Riverwoods, Lincolnshire, Bannockburn, Mattawa, Green Oaks, and portions of Deerfield, Lake Forest, Waukegan, Gurnee, and Grays Lake. She has been on the board since 2002. Member Maine is a longtime member of the Stormwater Management Commission and the Lake County Board of Health. Her main priorities are fiscal responsibility, sustainability, preserving a clean, safe water supply, and balancing growth while protecting our natural resources. Besides being on the county board, Member Maine is also Lake County Forest Preserve president since 2010. She also used to be a former trustee in Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
She has several different special appointments over the years and been on many committees and commissions and has helped to fulfill that. And she also served on a Jawa board of directors with me for many years.
Yes, we did.
So we've had a little interaction in the past. Welcome to us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure.
And tonight we have some moderators with us. So we have Chris Gentis from the Round Lake Area Park District. Chris has been on the Park District Board for many years now, and that works for the whole Round Lake area, not just Round Lake Beach, but Round Lake and Round Lake Heights and Round Lake Park, and it covers a very nice park district. We have, I think, one of the best in the state, if not the best in the state.
I like that too. I think so too.
And Jim Rock is also with us. He's with the attorney with Ansel Glink. They're the attorneys for Round Lake Beach. Jim used to actually be the executive director of the Round Lake Area Park District several years ago, and moved on from there. Now he's an attorney, which I think is a step up, but depends on who you ask. And welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and you're going to be our moderators, and I'll kick it over to you.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Mayor Hill. And I'd like to start with a question. If you could, can you tell us the current status of the development of the Millennium Trail and a little bit about how it fits in with the overall trail system that the Forest Preserve District has?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the Forest Preserve, which is your Forest Preserve, we have over 200 miles of trails in the Forest Preserves. And we have, and there are a couple main trails. We have the Des Plaines River Trail, which we just completed last year, and that runs the length of the county. And then we have a few other trails, and one of the main ones being the Millennium Trail. That's proposed to be 33 miles long, and about 25 miles of that are complete. And there's kind of a 2-mile gap that kind of runs through the Round Lake area, and then is going to kind of pick up again with 45. So the expansion of Route 45 is an opportunity for us to where we've worked with the state and the communities around there, and so the trail is going to be continuing north from McDonald Woods a couple miles up, not all the way to Ethel's Woods, but part of the way there. We'll probably complete the rest of that expansion as Route 45 is expanded. The section through the Round Lake area is really a tricky section because it's urban. And the Forest Preserve did spend about $14,000 on a feasibility study, and work with the different communities looking as they expand their roads or things like that, how that will work through. So there's not really, there's the railroad crossings, there's some challenges of doing that. So that's probably one that may be more signed of a bike route as opposed to something that is land, because there's not really land corridors for us to purchase through there. So on a number of our other trails, some of those connections have actually been made by communities as they do their planning. You know, they come to us, a lot of communities come to us, tell us what their plans are, and so we try to go back and forth. But there's not a delineated on a map exact plan of where things would go at the moment. Yeah,
we were kind of lucky in the Round Lake area here when they were doing the underpass. We were able to add some connectivity over there between the Gateway Park all the way over to Rowland Savannah, so that worked out very well. when the county was actually redoing part of Hook Drive years ago.
Yep.
They put a nice path along there for the bikes to travel to connect that whole subdivision over there, Oak Tree and so forth. And they get a lot of use over to Rollins Savannah too.
Yeah, and the Forest Preserve was part of that.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, those are the sorts of things that I think really are great in Lake County. It's a big county, but it's small enough, like you and I have served on boards together, that people know each other, and we're like, okay, how can we kind of get this worked out? And sometimes what was originally drawn, as development happens and other things, we adjust and say, oh, okay, well, this is happening. Let's try to work and make things work this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I might add that the Park District was also involved with
Yes.
the county on the trail through the Frisbee Golf Course.
Yes,
Or
and-
the disc golf course, as they like to call it, over on Fairfield. So
Yeah.
that was a
And
good
my-
connection as well.
It is a great connection. I was telling someone before, my husband and I rode our bikes from Singing Hills all the way up through, actually to Nippersink. We went through
Right.
the disc golf course. That was great. And you really do have, we do a lot of bike riding. So my husband and I on different rides have used a number of the trails that the Park District here has. And it's really, it's a great network that we have. So thanks.
Well,
We've
thank
loved
you,
it.
too. Thanks for the connectivity. We did not tell you, though, if you have questions, will you please wait till the end of the speakers so that we don't disrupt the flow, and then you will take your questions at the end. The next question we have to ask is, the Forest Preserve District has a goal to develop a land classification and use policy as the foundational guide for determining future land acquisition, restoration, and improvements. Can you explain the goal?
Sure. Sure.
And how the future acquisitions will be prioritized?
Sure. So the land, sort of our green infrastructure vision, is something we had a lot of partners with, Citizens for Conservation, Lake Forest Open Lands, a variety of organizations. And it really looked at a finer level of what are the land resources, what are the constraints we have. And Chris mentioned, well, a number of these the considerations. So for land acquisition, we own about 31,000 acres, and again, when I say we, I mean you, and there are approximately $8 million left from the 2008 bond referendum. So there's not going to be a whole lot more of land acquisition is not going to be occurring. So we have a strategy that our target has been to, can we use that? Are there, going back to the first question, for connections? You know, are there targeted purchases? We say, wow, if we got that piece, we could make a pedestrian, bike, whatever connection that way. So that's been one of our main targets. The other area that's of great concern is also water quality. So sometimes there's land that is upland, and if we own that land, we can do restoration work that's going to improve the wetlands, it's going to improve water quality, which is good for everyone. It's good for the environment, it's good for the residents. So for strategizing, after the you know, when we know what the important land, it's very important for us because we have a budget too, and we have to prioritize what lands we're going to restore, where our restoration dollars should come. So if we have a finer level of understanding what's the most important land, that's how we're going to use some of that.
Well, would you like to comment on how the village has plans along that line as well? Or does the village have? I don't want to make it a does, because you can say yes or no and that won't be a good answer. So what are the
he'll
plans?
say more than
What are
that.
the plans?
I have no problem speaking on topics, whether I know anything about them or not. Yeah, unfortunately, the village is, we're pretty much landlocked. We have a little bit of expansion room. Most of the village is already developed in one way or another.
Right.
We did recently create, actually, we have our conservation area and a poster right here. The green area is all a conservation area, so as the development occurs around it now, we put together a little plan to maintain that in perpetuity. There's a lot of wetlands in the middle there. There's a little small like ponds and so forth, a lot of wetlands around it, some beautiful trees all through the area back there. But that's what we are trying to do in our community, wherever we have spots that are large enough to contain and maintain. We're trying to do that. Same thing with, down by the lakefront. We built a second park down there, again, to maintain the pristine area the way it was. And
It's nice.
Unfortunately, again, we don't have big areas, and the county doesn't really, except in a few areas, that they can actually acquire any large sites.
Yeah, I mean, we had some large purchases this last year over around the Lakewood area, but you're right, there's not a whole lot of big ones. And just, I think it's important for people to know that for standalone properties, we really only look at things that are about 100 acres. You know, if it's added onto a preserve, we'd buy a smaller property. But for us to manage the land, to make it environmentally viable, it really needs to be about 100 acres. So smaller parcels, kind of standalone parcels, we leave those to villages,
Yes.
homeowners associations, park districts. You know, they can kind of do that finer level that seems to work best.
Great.
Yeah.
Circling back a little bit to the restoration, do you have any plans to do any restoration in any of the current existing forest preserves?
There is so much restoration going on. I made it my goal in January 1st to visit every forest preserve. There are 66, to visit every one this year and ride on all the trails. So my husband and I we're at 40 now. So, and there is just amazing amounts of restoration. Cuba Marsh, Lakewood has a lot going on. There's things at Middle Fork, Savannah, Grant Woods, Lyons Woods, really every corner of the county, a lot of restoration is going on. And it's really exciting to see that and see how the native plants come back from underneath when they're given the amount of light or they're given the amount of water that they really need. So that's a really big focus of ours, of that restoration.
Nice.
Thank you. We talked about some limited resources, both at the village level and at the forest preserve level, the county. And a lot of times intergovernmental cooperation goes a long way toward expanding those resources. Are there any opportunities that either of you can see for the village and the forest preserve district to work together in partnership to maybe share resources and make things work a little better?
Well, we're always, I mean, I think we already talked about some of the partnerships that we've had. And we're always open to partnerships, and I'm sure the village is. And I think what's important with a partnership is it's something that's beneficial and meets the mission of both groups. And you know, we've had villages or park districts come to us and say, well, you know, we think there should be a tunnel under this road, like up at McDonald. It wasn't on our initial plan. We could see the value of it. They got some money to the table. We then took some money from another project. Our staff is, we have a staff that's got a lot of experience with planning. And so yeah, one of Antioch came to us, you know, names, the other day and said, hey, we'd like to sit down with you, just kind of tell you what our plans are, the things that we're thinking of. And so our staff went up, met with them, and they were kind of talking about some of their plans. And I know our staff said, you know, have you ever thought about, you know, maybe putting the parking lot here, and then we could have a shared resource here. So we're very willing, you know, to come. We want to know what villages are doing. You know, I think I see the communicate, it's kind of a three-legged stool. It's the village or the park district, it's the forest preserve, and then it's the board member. And so those, you know, the communication needs to go in all those directions to kind of bring things forward, so.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussions over the years, mostly on the Millennium Trail, that directly goes through the community. We don't actually have any forest preserves within our boundaries. The closest one's around Savannah, which is just outside of the community here. A lot of use by the community, which is nice. I don't see as many opportunities with the partnership with the forest preserve as we do with the park district, because we share the same people. We have you have parks in our community and so forth. But there are opportunities on the Millennium Trail. I'm sure other things will come along from time to time, but nothing that's really jumping out at me right now. Do you have any suggestions?
I was just, oh, okay, I'll just say from the county side, because I could switch my hats here. From the county side, we have done things of salt purchase and other things like that. So, I think both organizations, the Forest Preserve and the county, look for, again, where it makes sense, purchase power or other things like that we can work together.
Yeah, there were several items like that this year, not just the salt.
Yeah.
Lake County Municipal League had several, and the county had several.
Yeah.
We saved thousands and thousands of dollars
Yeah.
by piggybacking on those.
Right, some of those contracts, yeah.
Do you really want me to ask my question?
Yes.
Do we have any plans to circle the Hook Lake, continue the path around Hook Lake? We'd be happy to partner. I can't
Actually,
speak
Dave and I
for-
spoke about that last week. Looking at, I think, see it on this one over here behind me, the map. Right now, the trail goes about halfway around Hook Lake, doesn't go all the way around. And we had many residents for many years asking for it to be all the way around. So they can make it like a jogging path or whatever, like a bike trail either way. There's not as much room over by the railroad tracks, I know, which is a bit of a problem. And I think the Park District owns a lot of that property.
We do.
Yeah, so I'd look at that again to see what exactly the village even owns. But yeah, that's something we definitely would like the partnership with the Park District on.
We would like to also, so someday we probably should sit down and talk about it. Not today. I'd like to go on to invasive species. There's, even though we haven't had much rain,
Yeah.
there's lots of invasive species. I see them in my yard all the time. Is there a plan to get rid of the invasive species and
Oh.
even the pests that are in the forest
sure.
preserves?
Oh, sure. So I think what's important, and it goes to our 100-year vision, which if you haven't read about it, I encourage you to go to the Forest Preserve website and you can read about that. But a lot of it's also partnership and leadership. So about 20% of the land in Lake County is publicly owned. So Forest Preserve, the state, with Illinois Beach State Park, Volobod, Red Wing Slough, so about 20%. So that means 80% of the land is in private hands. So what we've got some pilot projects is, and I met some great people here in the audience already, is we also need to be educators and we need the public doing the things that they can do on their land, because we can spend money and remove buckthorn and do everything, but we spend money here and then the neighbor right there, they really like that buckthorn tree, and maybe it's even a female with the berries on it and they don't want to get rid of it. Well, the bird goes from there to there. So, so we actually have a goal, which is ambitious. I wanted this goal, but I think we can do it, and that is to eliminate buckthorn in 25 years. From now. And we've got some pilot projects in a few areas. Excuse me. Contacting through our Preservation Foundation. We've hired Conserve Lake County. Many of you may be familiar with their Conservation at Home program, to reach out to neighbors and start educating the neighbors. I'm also a teacher. I've taught for over 20 years, and I think it's really important that we educate people. You don't go in and just say, get rid of that bad tree. You have to say, what's an alternative? Let's get you some black haw viburnum, and why don't you plant this now, and then in 2 years from now, maybe you'll be ready to cut that down. That's very important. So certainly we've worked on emerald ash borer, which of course has had purple loosestrife. We had great success with that, getting rid of that. So there's always something that is growing up, and sometimes there's things that people like to have in their flower pots. Something called creeping Jenny looks so pretty in the pots, but then that gets in the waterways. So we have, again, on our website a lot of informational brochures and things that you can download that talk about that, but that's part of our restoration projects of trying to get rid of that stuff. Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned purple loosestrife. One of our residents, Tim Pasternak, I don't know if he still does or not, but he raised beetles that were designed to eat that. He's actually also on the Parks Board of Commissioners, and you referenced this quite well. He's also on a Lakes Management Organization.
Wow.
Yes, he's a pretty busy guy.
Yeah.
And I know,
Well, and that's a great example, Rich, because in that case, it was using the biologics
yes.
that worked. It wasn't one of those ones that then went crazy and now what's the problem we've created? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know with the lakes even, we had like you raised a milfoil out there, which is an invasive species, and
Yeah.
that's very hard to get rid of.
It
And
is. It is. Yeah.
Well, as we've talked, things like that take over what's out there, the natural vegetation, and until you get rid of that, the natural vegetation can't return.
That's right. That's right. Well, and we use burns in our preserves in certain areas, and that's effective. We've learned a lot. We realize it's not a one and done. You can't go in and do a burn and never come back. So we're getting things on a cycle and understanding you need to come back. But the burn usually takes care, or is part of the management tool to get rid of the invasives, which are much more susceptible to the burn, whereas the native grasses, they're set up to keep their roots underground, and then they can sprout again and stuff like that. It's better for the birds, the honeysuckle, the non-native honeysuckle. The branches aren't as strong. The birds, it's not good for their nests. So there's a whole lot. I could go on a long time about invasive species, so I'll stop with that.
But one of the key points you made was that it's important for residents who neighbor forest preserves and other natural areas to also cooperate and help to get rid of some of these invasive species. And I think I heard you say that there's specific information on the district's website about what they can do.
We do. We have some, and we're really with these, we've got a pilot project, one down in Riverwoods and one over around Middle Fork, Savannah, of sort of trying some different projects and different outreach could kind of say what's the best way to educate neighbors. And so our hope is over the next 2-3 years, as we figure out what was the best way to communicate with people, that we can refine our information and get more out, and then bring it to other places, bring it to the park district, bring it to the village. And our staff is always welcome. If the park district wants, or the village would like someone to come and talk. I've talked to a lot of garden clubs. Those garden clubs, they know what they're about, and they often want to get rid of things. So it literally is grassroots. It really is, of educating everybody.
Well, we're going to shift gears just a little bit and maybe move to the Discovery Museum. Mm-hmm. And can you tell us a little bit about what the plans are for the Discovery Museum?
I can, and I was at a meeting yesterday in which we talked a lot about it. So the Discovery Museum, I think what happens is people think Discovery Museum and Lakewood, and they're really two separate concepts there. There are the buildings at Lakewood, which have housed our artifacts, and there's the museum collection. And our staff has done an amazing job of protecting the history of Lake County, but it's been doing it in barns and old houses that are not climate controlled. And so the museum will be closing at Lakewood end of August, maybe the beginning of September, and it's going to be closed for a year. And we've already started moving the collections to our general offices on Winchester Road. So the collections are going to be housed in a way that it's climate controlled. The staff doesn't need to climb into attics to go get things. And then if you've ever been there, if you go in the front door, the first floor on the left is going to be our new museum. And it is going to have a new name. I think Discovery Museum, everyone knows that. You go, is that for kids? Is it Lego? It's not a name that really works anymore for the type of museum it is. So I saw staff's preliminary ideas, and it's really exciting because one of the things we've wanted to do, and one of the things I've hounded staff about a little bit, is we want people to be able to see what we have. Like most museums, in the Field Museum or the Art Institute, you can see 1%. You don't see most of what they have. So they've got this sort of areas set up and themes and these new display cases that will make it easy for them to switch things out. So like right now, if you've gone, like my youngest is 21, just turned 21. So I used to bring the boys up to the Discovery Museum, and you'd go in that little area, and then they'd kind of done it, you know, and there wasn't something new for mom, but as mom, you of course go back again. So really what it's going to be is that we'll be changing out more. So, you know, maybe there's something about the Civil War in Lake County all the time, but the artifacts that are in there can be changed out periodically. So I'm really excited about it. And we're going to have more display cases. We actually have some in our meeting room now because people should be able to see these things. So it's great.
That's going to be the permanent location for it then?
So, you know, a museum works, exhibits and things work for about, let's say, 10 years. We do have the ability from the legislature to rent out part of that building or sell that building at some time. And sometime in the future that might make sense. You know, what we've tried to do, as I know villages have done, is we've tried to take a much longer view of things. How can we be sustainable? Not just environmental sustainability, but economically sustainable. So we've tried to position ourselves for the moment and really thinking about those boards that are going to be there 10, 15, 20 years when we're not there, that they have the flexibility to respond to the conditions. So maybe they say, this is great, we're going to stay here for a long time. Or maybe economics have changed, whatever, maybe it makes sense to do something different at that time.
I have two questions that sort of dovetail into this. We went to see the Shakespeare folio, which was amazing. Are there any plans to do anything big like that again?
So yeah, that was great.
Not bringing the Pietà or David or anything.
That might be a little tricky, and you know, the first folio, the Shakespeare, was a great example of partnerships. We had more than 30 partners with libraries, park districts, villages that came together, and that's why we were the only site in Illinois, because we had all those great partners. So yeah, there's some things, I can't tell you about them. Sorry, you know. But yeah, we've got some things in mind, you know, that we're looking at of what we do. But first, we really want to get those collections taken care of, because you know, get them moved. And the other thing that's going to be really neat is the plan is to have a library. Like right now, if you wanted to research Lake County history, you'd have to make an appointment and you'd only have these certain hours. Well, again, we want those resources, those maps and those other things that relate to Lake County history. We want them to be more accessible to people so that they're, again, not, it's only open from 2 to 4 on Tuesdays, and that's the only time they can get it. So
how will you communicate the new location change? And actually that ties in to how you communicate with the public in general.
Well, there have been stories. We have it on, we have it certainly on our website, and our website, www.lcfpd.org. We have a new website in the past year or so. It's really robust, and a lot of stuff that you can do on that. You know, trail maps, all sorts of things like that. So I'm sure we'll have stories about that. You know, the papers are good about that, but we'll have, you know, a lot of information, and we're already thinking, you know, what could be some interesting kickoff, you know, to open it, the grand opening, and what we'd want there. Yeah. So, and we hope that you guys will help us with that and let your resident, you know, you're welcome to put that on your website. Okay. You know, put a link to us. Yeah.
In fact, our next newsletter goes out in September, so if you have some information we could put in our newsletter, that'd be great.
We'd be happy to do that,
Well, your jobs wouldn't be any fun if you didn't have challenges. And one of the challenges that's being discussed in Springfield with the legislature and the governor is a potential property tax freeze for units of local government. And we're just interested in hearing about how the village and the Forest Preserve District might be impacted by that, especially in terms of your short-term visions.
I'm going to let you go first, Rich.
Thanks. Well, the village was a little proactive on the property tax freeze. About 5 years ago, we froze the property taxes for the 3 years in a row, trying to help the residents during the downturn in the economy. The village took a bit of a hit. If we just tightened our belt a little bit, streamlined things, eliminated things that we were doing that we didn't have to do right now, and we got through it. Last couple of years, we've raised the property taxes probably 1.5%, 1.7%. Again, tried to keep it on the low side as best we could. Because people are still recovering. Still a lot of foreclosures out there. A lot of people that are either not getting raises or barely getting a raise, and they can't afford any kind of increase either. So yes, that would hurt us. 1.7% does make a difference. We have union contracts with a lot of our employees that we have to give them raises. So if we have to do that, we have to find another way. Either we stop doing the project, or we don't do a little maintenance on something, which I hate to even say that, because when you don't do maintenance, it costs you more in the long run.
It sure does.
But we would find a way to get through it. I know the governor's also talked about doing some other bills that would give the villages a little bit more flexibility in other areas that would save them money. So there'd be a cost reduction along with income reduction. Then that would be fine. That would probably be the best of both worlds for all of us.
Yeah.
Don't spend money we don't have to spend, and use it for what we do need, and have no increase for the residents. That would be great.
Okay. Well, we've done some things that are fairly similar. In 2008, when things started, going down, the equalized assessed value went down and has gone down every year except this year, in the county as a whole. Depends on where you live. A number of our funds were at the max of their tax rate. So actually, the amount of dollars the Forest Preserve has collected in property tax until this last budget has gone down every year since 2008 for a cumulative, probably a decrease cumulative of $52 million since 2008. This last year, it went up kind of along your lines, a small amount. Maybe it was, I think it went up like $200,000 from last year, and it's about a $70 million budget. So we've done a lot of the same things that the village has. We did a reorganization of how the staff was organized that allowed us to consolidate positions. Staff really looked at some of the programs that we offered. You know what? 6 kids sign up for this camp. That just doesn't make sense, so we've dropped things, we've tried to reorganize. There's some things we've raised some fees on, maybe a little bit on a picnic shelter or some things like that. But we've weathered it. We did some really important things this last year, and that is pretty bold. We've gone to a 10-year CIP, that is a capital improvement plan. So we were always balanced out 5 years, and that I just kind of felt like it was that old Soviet 5-year plan that you kept changing. And I said, I think we need a longer term. So staff and the board really rolled up their sleeves, and so we now, going out 10 years, have a balanced capital improvement plan, and we took a lot of projects off the books. We said, do we really need to do that? Does it really fit with our mission? So I think the good thing about tighter money is it really makes you say, yeah, that was nice, but is that really what we're supposed to be doing? And so we're like, you know what? We're about, if we look in the 1913 legislation that allowed us to exist, it is to exist to preserve and restore lands and have public access. And that's really helped us focus. I do want to say one more thing. Because of these changes, we have AAA bond rating. We continue to have AAA bond ratings. We just refinanced some of our bonds for the remainder of their life with an even better rate than we thought. Probably a savings of between $10 and $13 million for the next 12 years. So probably a savings of $750,000 a year to the taxpayers, because we had that good bond rate and people wanted our bonds. So if you make good decisions, you can get rewarded for them too, and do stuff. And like 2-year, it kind of depends on how long it would be, but boy, you really don't want to cut into your maintenance, because and people are unhappy, that's not what they want, and as you said so well, it just costs you more. Yeah.
What's your favorite park or forest preserve, and why?
Mike?
And
Well, as the mother of 4 sons,
You
that's
can
like
have two
saying,
if you have two.
what is your favorite child? So I would say, what day is it? What season is it? You know, I really, there's neat things about all of them. Ryerson Woods is our go-to. It's a 5-minute bike ride away. When it's summer, we're big birders. I love to go up to Rollins, bike around Rollins, find the sedge wrens. We just did a big bike ride in Grant Woods. Pine Dunes is one of the newest preserves. If you haven't been there, that is up at the state line. That was another great partnership. That was wetland restoration money for projects going down at O'Hare. So we got $8 million worth of work done up there. That's lovely, kind of rolling hills, so I love that one. I love them all.
Locally, is the ones I attend the most are Rollins, Savannah, and Grant Woods.
Yeah.
Go through there quite often. Beautiful areas, and you could go out and picnic over at Grant Woods and so forth. But really, I think Independence Grove is probably the nicest one. I like water a lot. I like fishing or being on the water, and they have some great attributes over there and some great opportunities over there for a lot of recreational opportunities.
Well, and I think Nippersink is I don't know how far Nippersink is from you guys here. I biked in that.
Yes.
Yeah, I biked in that the other day, and I think that again it's got nice connections to the neighborhoods there, and boy, when we went, it was a Sunday evening, people picnicking, riding their bikes, walking, baby strollers. I just love going into any of them and just seeing so many different types of people. You know, little kids, elderly people, people walking their dogs. I think it's great. People get out and just use them.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of programs are available at the Forest Preserve District for active adults?
Sure. Well, I would go back to what I said in the beginning. We have 202 miles of trails. So anyone who wants to get out and walk or bike, I met someone in the audience who has their own walking group, and they go to different preserves, and that's great. Walking has really been a great effort that we've been promoting. There's called RX for Health, which is a partnership between North Shore University Health System, the Health Department, and the Forest Preserve District, where they're having walks each month in different locations in the county. And there's a doctor on the walk and a naturalist on the walk. Sometimes it's the same person who's a doctor and a naturalist, so that you can, because walking and being outside is good for you. You know, anyone who does that, you know that physically you feel better, mentally you feel better. There's lots of studies that just say it's good for people, it's good for kids' brains and everything, get outside. And then the Forest Preserve has a number of other types, and these hikes are free. They have a number of other hikes. Full disclosure, my husband actually started some of this stuff, and he's the doctor and naturalist that goes on some of these things. And he told me the other day that he did a walk at Middle Fork, Savannah, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was a woman, like in her 60s, and that was her 3rd walk of the day that she had done with the Forest Preserve. She'd gone to different places, and she just was trying to get more fit, and she liked being with people. So, I mean, there was someone who was really being active. So we have a lot of those hiking programs. And then, you know, there's programs at the Stevenson House, the Adley Stevenson House. So that's more sort of a cerebral experience, but you want to body and mind is still working there, but you can walk around there. So fishing, fishermen here, so people can go out fishing or do the paddle boats or things like that. So we're more about passive recreation.
Well, in the last 5 minutes, do you have anything that you think we need to know that we didn't cover?
I do. I saw that. I'm so excited, and it segues nicely from what I'm just talking about. So, as I mentioned before, last year we completed the Des Plaines River Trail. And what's really exciting about that is that was a vision from 1963. So the forest preserves were formed in 1958 here. And within 5 years, someone had a vision that they wanted a trail to go the length of Lake County. And I think if anyone who grew up in this area, whether it was Lake County or parts of Cook County, think how open this was in 1963, and that people had the vision then to say, we want to do this. So it took us a long time, but it got done. And in celebration of the completion of the Des Plaines River Trail, we are having the Des Plaines River Trail Challenge. It starts August 1st, runs through November 30th, and we usually have our fall hike Lake County. So this year, the challenge is, over that period of time, doesn't have to be one day, can you walk or ride your bike or kayak the entire length of the Des Plaines River Trail? So you can do it over time. So there's a log that you can sign up for, and then there's fun prizes when you complete it, like this little backpack thing that you get. So, I'm going to do it. So I took the challenge. So I'm going to do it. So I challenge all of you. And as I say, you've got a couple months. It doesn't need to be one day. So that's
August 1st to November 30th?
August
and you have
1st
to
to
log,
November.
you have to sign in?
Download.
various-
I will make sure that we send that out to our park districts and our villages,
Great.
and you can put that on your newsletter and just get out on those trails.
How many miles is that trail?
It is 34, 35.
So more than one day?
Well, I will say, as I said, we're bikers. My husband did the whole thing back and forth in one day, and I said, "Can we do that in 2?" He said, "That's fine."
So you go one way and stay some overnight?
Yeah,
overnight
that's right. Or have someone drop us up north. He did that. He dropped up north and paddled down the whole way. So got to keep
That's
up
a
with
great,
it.
I accept the challenge.
Good. Thank you.
I'm going to
Thank
have
you.
to walk it though, because I can't
That's
ride a bike
okay.
anymore.
You've got all that time. You can
Okay,
just do different
sounds
segments
good.
of it.
Does anyone have any questions? Dawn?
You know what? I just pulled it. If you do it, I mean, it depends on your area. So we're on about a half-acre lot. It's kind of wooded. When we moved in, it was there. And I just got after it for like 3 years in a row. And it is not, I haven't seen it in my yard. I just pull. So here's one of the things is that, and I see this on the trail, like people are trying to be helpful. They pick it and then they drop it. Well, it's just going to die and leave its seed there. So you need to pick it and put it in a black plastic bag and put it out with the waste, or a lot of times if you've seen what the stewards do, they put in these black plastic garbage bags, and then that acts as a little oven, and they kind of put it someplace and it cooks them so the seeds die. But I didn't use any chemicals. I was after it. The boys were younger. I made them go do it too. And I haven't had it come back. So, because if you get it early, the roots aren't so strong. So trying to be on it early in the spring. That's what I would recommend. Yeah. We do use it at times, but we use it like with a paintbrush. I mean, they're certified. So for buckthorn, they cut it and then they right away literally paint the stump with the Roundup, and then it sucks in it and it dies. So with poison ivy, I don't know for that. I know other people talk about like with crab, like boiling hot water or something like that. We don't, the Forest Preserve doesn't deal with poison ivy because it's actually native, and animals eat the berries and stuff like that. So what I do in my yard for that, I call my husband and tell him, I'm like, there's the poison ivy. So that's not so helpful, but I'm like, you could try that.
Dave, you could do that.
Yeah,
But
Dave,
maybe,
that's
Dawn,
your
try
job.
the cooperative extension.
Yeah.
Maybe they have the University of Illinois Cooperative Extension. See if they have, their master gardeners can tell you how to get rid of it with just using everyday products instead of pesticides.
Yeah, and there is some evidence that warming temperatures, hotter summers is continual warmer weather, is that poison ivy likes that. yeah, it does, that it grows better. I mean, so a lot of people, I've seen in my yard, like we had gotten rid of all of it when the kids were young, and you know, then it comes back. So a lot of people anecdotally are saying, wow, it really seems like the poison ivy is much more aggressive and it's growing better. And so people are working to try to figure that out, because that seems to be a trend, not one we want. Yeah.
So I should stop chasing my golf balls into the woods.
You know,
I try to hit it on the fairway.
if you don't react, if you're not allergic to it, then go to her yard and pull it out.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
Well, I think one of the things that we would like to do we've done things with townships, so, and try to also, like with this pilot program we're looking at, how could we then reach out to homeowners associations? And I think one of the ways is, I know, having served on stormwater management probably has the best connections with homeowners associations. And you know, invasive, stormwater, they all fit together, right? It really is an ecosystem. So I think that we're going to look at how we can work with them, how we can maybe disseminate some information with them, because we have the Forest Preserve and the SMC certainly work together. So, so I would say it's not a positive or a negative. It's sometimes harder to reach people in an unincorporated area, especially if they're not in a township, if they're not in a homeowners association. So it's really, yeah, kind of a communication issue. Yeah. And one of the things, like I said, like in my district, I go out, like if the homeowners or people go out, so part of that is also, you know, what your district representative does, because those are great, and I will go tell staff, and they're probably like, what's she coming back with now? Because we have more land, and staff is probably down 10%. So a lot of the educators who do that stuff, some of them are actually working on the museum stuff. But those are good ideas, and I'm sure we can, you know, kind of work with some of that stuff and get some of those ideas out, because I know we do have boards that talk about that stuff. But good ideas.
Are there any programs in the schools? Do you take any programs to the schools?
Oh, we have a lot of education. Our education staff has really refined their programs. The schools, they've got, you know, so much of that standardized testing. The buses are expensive, so our staff, you can bring your school out, or we bring programs to the schools. And that was one of our goals. One of our goals was to, for this year, in 3 years, to increase by 5% the number of kids we reach. They revamp stuff. In 1 year, they increased by 17%. And they really look at what the school curriculum is, what the state standards are. So they even found, by tweaking some of the programs, that the teachers would look and say, oh, that's a program that works. So we are constantly working with the schools. The schools are under so many constraints themselves that it's difficult. But that's why I say we will come to the schools if they can't come to us. Anyone else?
Anything else? Anybody? No? Rich, do you have any final comments?
Just closing, again, thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate their coming out, and especially on a nice hot night like tonight,
yeah.
And a little cooler in here. Maybe came for their conditioning, who knows? Hopefully it's for us.
Right.
But again, we appreciate you being here, and Ann, thank you so much for being here.
It was my pleasure, and I got lots of ideas to bring back to staff.
Always give our guests a little pin from Raleigh Beach.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I also wore my golf tie today for the Forest Reserve.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And
Thanks,
next
everyone,
month,
for
on
coming.
August 10th, we'll have David Sloman, the Lake County Treasurer, here at 6:30 on August 10th. So please come back and join us again.